Good afternoon. This is Math with Mr. Samuels. So before you start this video, I want you to go ahead and make sure that you have your notes that were given to you in class. Please make sure that you have your notes. Also, make sure that you're following along with the video. If you do not have the notes, just go ahead and print them out and make sure that you complete all the practice problems at the end, because I will check that in class tomorrow. Okay, the ones that we don't do, whichever ones we don't do. So let's go ahead and get started. So percent of change, when we're talking about percent of change, we can either have a percentage that increased or we can have a percentage that decreased. Okay. So before we start that, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. We have a formula that we use, and that formula is whatever the percent of change. To find the percent of change, all we do is we subtract the new amount minus the old amount, and we put that over the old amount. Okay, the old original amount. Okay, so new minus old over old. Okay, so let's use some common sense. Okay, earlier I talked about percent increase, percent decrease. Okay, so clearly when the original amount goes up, okay, let's say something starts at 50% and then increases to 75%. It's called a percent increase. Okay, when it rises, when it goes up, it's called a percent increase. When it drops down, let's say we start with something that is 100%. You start with 100% in the class and you drop down to a 90. Okay, that is clearly a percent decrease. Okay, don't think too hard about this. Make this harder than what it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a couple of examples. So let's go ahead and do this first one. It says Beth bought a $75 pair of jeans for $60. Find the percent of change and classify as a percent increase or decrease. Well, let's look at this. If the original cost of the jeans was $75 and it went down to $60, clearly it was a percent decrease. It decreased by a percentage of 75, but we need to figure out what that amount is. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so when I'm doing this, I like to identify what my variables are, what my new and what my old is. Okay, so my old amount, the original amount of the jeans, was $75. And now the jeans cost $60. So all I need to do is plug this into my formula. Okay, plug this into my formula and solve this. So what we have is new minus old over old. Okay, so, oh, that's too dark. It's too bold. Let me erase this really quickly. Okay, so we have $60 minus 75 over the old, which was $75. Okay, so now that is going to be negative 15 over 75. And when we divide that out, we find that our answer is going to be negative 0.20. Here, let me fix that. That looks a little crazy. Okay, so our answer is going to be negative 0.20. Okay, so clearly, another little thing I want to point out and bring to your attention is this. Anytime it's negative, it's always going to be a percent decrease. Anytime this percentage or this decimal that we get at the end, the amount of change is positive, it's always going to be an increase. So with that being said, this particular price dropped by 20%. It was a 20% decrease. Let's do another example. Okay. Look at number 4. Okay. It says Karen's old car got 25 miles per gallon. Her new car gets 31 miles per gallon. So the old car, or her old, was 25. And now her new is 31. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plug it into our formula and figure out whether this was a percent increase or percent decrease. So let's go ahead and do it. We have formula, which is new minus old over old. So 31 minus 25 over the old. So over 25. So 31 minus 25 is 6. And we have 6 over 25. So when we are finding out what 6 over 25 is, obviously to turn a fraction into a decimal, we divide, and we find that that decimal ends up being 0.24. So we need to change that into a percent, and 0.24 becomes 24%. And one other thing I want to point out to you, notice how this is positive. So clearly, the first car was getting 25 miles per gallon. Now the car is getting 31 miles per gallon. So this is a 24% increase. Okay. I will do one more with you, and then you guys are going to be responsible for the rest. We'll talk about any ones you have questions on tomorrow in class. Let's look at number 11. Okay. In Mr. Wallen's math class, Aaron earned an 88% in first quarter. So her old first quarter, or her old grade, ended up being an 88%. Now her new grade, second quarter, ended up being a 94%. Okay. So now all we need to do is find whether this was a percent increase or a decrease. Well, clearly, if we're looking at the numbers, we went from 88% to a 94%. So we should know just by looking at it that it's going to be an increase. We just need to know how much it increased by. So let's go ahead and do it. So new minus old. So 94 minus 88 over old over 88. And that gives us an answer, or that gives us a difference of 6. So 6 over 88. And 6 over 88 simplifies down to 0.0681. That 81 is going to be repeating. So now we need to change this into a decimal. And to change this into a decimal, we move it 2 places to the right. Change this decimal into a percent. So we find that it is going to be a 6.81% increase. So you all are going to continue to do this on your own. Okay. Finish all the rest of the practice problems, and we will discuss them in class. Please make sure you have them done so that you can receive full credit for watching the video and completing the notes. This has been Math with Mr. Samuels. Have a wonderful evening.